So we are joined all the way from Plano, Texas, by Jeff Whitley, owner of Affordable Fencing there in the DFW Metroplex. I've got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School. This is for our entrepreneurship class, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central High School, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Autism Center, and our YouTube channel. And we thank you so much for joining us. And it is the 30th anniversary, coming out on the 30th anniversary of the most famous football game ever played in the history of football. And you were the quarterback that led that comeback. And we will get to that because we really want to hear all these years later about the amazing thing that happened on the field that night. But we want to talk about affordable fencing. You guys have been there since 1977. You know,
Yeah.
you went to Plano East High School. You went to college out at Hardin Simmons and Abilene, but you've been running these businesses for a long time.
Yes. So I graduated college. I took this company over about 10 or 11 years ago now. And it's been a family business for that long. My grandfather and father built it. I built custom homes. I had a company called Victory Custom Homes that I started when I was 25 years old. And
Wow.
that's a great story I can tell these guys as we get into it a little bit more. But I did take over this one and probably have grown it by about 400%. My dad did a wonderful job on a good foundation.
Wow.
But when I took it over, we kind of updated systems, updated advertising, things of that nature. So it was a total rehaul and kind of keeping up with the times. And believe me, my dad and we butted heads because he's old school. So any changes that were made, me and him never fight, but we had some conflict. And I learned real early on, just don't even tell him what you're doing, just do it, and he'll start to see success. And so there was a point where he was like, "Do whatever you want; it's all yours." So yeah, it's a fun company to run. And again, uh, I didn't build this one from ground up. It had a good foundation. So it was a little bit different than the first company I ever started, which was Victory Custom Homes. That was more of a build from ground up.
Wow. Well, you did mention something there about getting with the times, and
Mhm.
something I talked about with all the other people that are with us that you can have a great product, you
Mhm.
can be in you guys' cases, you can have great tradesmen building the product. You can have even the best price, but if you can't run the business side of it, if you can't deal with people, if you don't have the customer service skills, those customers are going to use somebody else.
It's I help people all the time, including right now, give a little bit of advice on starting company startups. And it always reminds me, this is a very simple company to run. We build about 300, 400 fences a year. We do some arbors, but it is a easy company to run compared to building homes, let's say. But it reminds me all the time, even though it's simple, what you just said, I mean, there are a thousand things that I try not to overload them with information that you got to think about. And it's sales, it's systems in place, it's advertising. We are in a season, as y'all probably know. Bear with me if somebody's leaving a message here on the.
That's fine.
As y'all know, when I took it over, the biggest thing I did, we 60, 70% of our sales were through what's called Angie's List. Y'all have that there? Y'all have Angie's
Yep.
List. So
Yep.
I didn't like that. We were too dependent. So I'm sorry. Uh, I wanted to move towards Google, and that's how we did it. So I worked real hard to get us through hard work to get us first page on Plano and all the surrounding cities. Now I will say this: we are in a transition right now of Google's algorithms and their way of doing things has totally changed. So
Wow.
I have to keep up with the times. People are buying fences on TikTok right now, and so you have to move and do
Wow.
your best to be ahead of the game. And I used to love that stuff. Now I hire somebody, to do it for me. But when you're first starting one, you have to kind of be the administrator and kind of do everything, which, I have a little list of things that I'll give advice for, to the things you're not good at. Once you get going, don't spend a lot of time on those. Find out what you're good at and what you're not good at, then hire somebody or bring somebody in that can help you build the company. But
And I'm glad you said that because I say that a lot, especially when it comes to bookkeeping, accounting, things like that, because you can be doing everything right, but if you don't manage the money, something, with taxes and things like that, you could be out of business in a hurry.
oh yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to run a company. Like you're saying, there are so many facets of it. So you find out I'm good at sales, I'm good with people, um, I'm good at other things. But as far as administration work, first of all, I can be good at it. I just don't like it. So, it's just a grind to me. So I have somebody else do that. I have a bookkeeper that keeps my taxes in check so that I can focus. Well, I have principles that I've lived by that I've worked. You've probably heard this or teach it. Try to work on your company, not in it, especially when you're building one. I mean, there's a balance, but you want to work on your company, building and not in it where you're just consumed by the little stuff.
Yeah.
But you gotta lay a good foundation and then build upon that. So I get that you start a company, you don't have any capital, you got to get going. But eventually, when things start to move a little bit, I constantly, even to this day, after 25, or I'm getting older now, 30 years of having companies, I've only had um, one job in my life besides owning
Wow.
companies when I was 25 years old. Now, I have to preach to my kids, go get a job. Everybody wants to just go out and be rich with no capital and do all that stuff. So the company I did work for building homes, it was Legacy Custom Homes, but I learned more in those 4 years of what to do, not to do in order to start my own company. So I always give the advice to my boys, everybody, if you want to be in real estate, then go work for a real estate company. If you want to be, whatever it is, go learn and pay your dues is what I call it. And
Yeah.
then entrepreneurs at that point, there's entrepreneurs and there's not. And if I'm over talking, you just let me know. Um,
No, you're good.
and you either have an entrepreneur spirit, and I believe it's kind of built in you, or you don't. The great news is there's nothing wrong with being an employer, and there's nothing wrong with being an entrepreneur. There's not one better than the other. Entrepreneur, you got a lot of pressure on you. It's all on you. Some people like to work for an employer, they get the check, and it's just there's no right or wrong in that. But an entrepreneur is a risk taker. If the economy goes bad, you got employees, you got to take care of your family. I take care of quite a few things. And so I like the pressure, which has to do with football, the game, and just
Yeah.
my athletic. I think athletics prepare
Yeah.
me so much in life for the things that I've done. But an entrepreneur is a risk taker. It's fun. It can be high. It's high reward and it can be what's the word I'm looking for here, Greg? It can be
High risk, high reward.
yeah, high risk, high reward. But I'd rather be on me, to figure it out and problem solve. So
Yeah, and a couple things that you said there that I tell these guys all the time is just because you're an employee doesn't mean you can't think like an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs love hiring employees that can think like an entrepreneur. Just because you don't have all the financial risk, you can learn entrepreneurial skills that can advance the company you work for, which means more money for you.
yes, to me, there's two kinds of people within what you're saying. There's problem solvers, and then there's people that aren't problem solvers. And so you can be an entrepreneur spirit within a company by all means. And I look for those.
Yeah.
I might hire 10 people. I might look at 10 people, and two of them are problem solvers. The other eight, nothing against them. When I hire somebody, we have a deal where we're going to regroup in a month, and it may be a fit or may not be a fit. It's a little trial period. And all I look for is problem solvers, people that are entrepreneurs within the company, solve problems. They're looking to build the company with me, or are they looking just to get their check, do the bare minimum? And so I do determine who we hire
Yeah.
and what I look for based on that. But yes, you can, we don't have to go by the traditional word of an entrepreneur of starting the company. You can be one within the company. It's a mind frame to me.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I've seen more and more people say that. And then also, you mentioned something else about everybody wants it to be quick. I have all young men in here with me right now, and they have multiple business concepts. And a lot of them are trade related or trucking related. And I think that's great, especially here in Mississippi. We need a lot of that. But it's
Sure.
not just something you just flip a switch and then it happens. It really takes time to build that customer base, to build that profit, and to start getting your brand out there. Because especially we have a lot of hard workers in here that are skilled in these things, but
Mhm.
you got to learn how to market. You got to or find somebody that can market for you.
Well, I just use the word. Some of these golden nuggets are from my experience. Some of them are from my father. Some of them are from mentors. But a life and in business, I just already said it, and I say it to myself every week. You're just problem solvers. So whether it be starting one and you have to get your foundation with your clientele, how you market, all that stuff. You get up every morning and you problem solve.
There
You
you
don't have
go.
any sales, you problem solve. You're trying to get your materials down, you problem solve. You have good or bad customers, you problem solve. All a business owner to me is that I've learned we are problem solvers. And you have to be ready to solve problems every day because, like we started this out, even though this is a pretty simple company, there's always something to solve, systems in place. You never stop learning, but these were instilled in me young. And I'll tell a little story on, or let's keep on going. We'll see if we get to that. But I think it's just a problem solving.
Oh,
You
yeah.
just never stop.
Yeah, and you're not only solving a problem within your company, you're solving a problem for those customers.
Always. Is that what you said, Greg? Did you say that, Greg?
Yeah, yeah, you're solving a problem for the customers as well.
Yes, it's you can't even categorize it. It's just problem solving every day, something. Even
Yeah.
you'll hit little seasons where everything seems to be going great. Those don't last forever or very long in the sense of solving some other problem. The materials went up, code. I mean, just it could be anything. But
Yeah.
but my dad taught me that one day. He said, "All we are is problem solvers. That's what we do every day when running a company."
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned earlier about how playing sports in high school was such a great practice and great translation, not only working as a team, finding a good team around you, being a leader, because as we said at the beginning, we are the 30th anniversary here in just a couple months. For my money, the most exciting, incredible, ridiculous football game that has ever been played on any level. And we watched the video in class of the Plano East comeback. You guys were playing the Tyler John Tyler High School in 1994 state
Hmm.
quarterfinals at Texas Stadium, old home of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hmm.
And it was 27-17. You were sacked and fumbled to return for touchdowns twice
Right.
within a minute and a half. And with 3 minutes and 3 seconds left in the game, you guys were down 41-17.
Hmm.
And just take us through, for those who haven't seen it, what happened after that point, because it is still the most incredible thing I have ever seen on a football field.
Well, you hit it on the head. We were number 2 and 3 in the state. We kind of knew whoever won this game, we had a few games left that had a great chance to go win the whole thing. Both undefeated. They were a great team. I just built for a customer. I still hear about this game at least twice a month from somewhere. So you Jeff Whitley from Plano East, or that game. So I've had that at least twice. It used to be 10 times a week kind of deal. But you described it perfectly because a lot of times people get off on the score or the timing of it. But we were actually heading down on the 10-yard line to score again to be within three, I think. And so it was a close game, but they ripped it. I had a broken hand. I had a cast on all that week. And so they stripped it, ran it back, like you're saying, and then the next drive they ripped it back. So all of a sudden it became a blowout. And so I, of course, felt like I lost the game, considering that I just had two strips, fumbles for touchdowns. So I was pretty down, to be honest with you. And even thought I still talk to my coach once a month, even seventh grade coaches I still communicate with. And honestly, when you make fun of it, I was like, why are you putting me back in? I was just so down because I felt like I lost the game. And then y'all watched it, you kind of see what happens. In all honesty, you know, when it started to change, can we win this game? Is after we got the second onside kick and we scored. Then you're like, we got one more, we can do this. So the whole atmosphere changed. Terrence Green, who did the squib kicks, well, probably our best athlete on our team, did it, and we got that third one. And at that point, we thought we were going to win. We just figured the universe is working for us here, and so we scored, of course. Yeah, you
7 points. That's in under 3 minutes. You
yes,
guys scored 27 points in, I think, 2 minutes and 39 seconds.
yeah. And so the things I remember about it is looking up, and I've never seen a crowd go so crazy at any sporting event in my life. And it was just surreal, to be honest, and just very surreal. We thought we had won. Obviously, we kicked the ball off, and we all know what happens, which my father has watched that 100 times, but he will never watch that kickoff return. But you know what? It was like no one knew how big it was going to be, and it was we went from the ultimate low to the ultimate high back to the ultimate low. So it was a mix of emotions within 15, 20 minutes of that game in real time. But it was no one knew how big it was going to be as far as SPs and the commentators who were my baseball coaches growing up, how big they were. I still talk one of the commentators who they're famous passed probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and then the other one I still talk to all the time. But yeah, that changed a lot of people's lives, and I just had no idea that it was going to be that big. This is the 30th, the 10-year, 20-year. I mean, we did so many interviews. I got kind of sick of them, to be honest with you. Like, oh my gosh. So this 30-year, we only had one call. It's a local station that me and another, we're going to meet with them next Tuesday, a week from today, to do a little bit of interviewing. But man, it definitely was part of my journey. It will always be that's didn't change the direction of my life, but it's just part of my journey that has been a big part over the years. So it was a great thing to be in. Now they went on to win state championship. I'd rather have the state championship 100 out of 100 times than the greatest non-comeback. So it was good.
But it really, it really did make it possible that no matter what the circumstances, when
Yeah.
when people work together and they have a common goal, really anything can happen. And
Mhm.
until there are zeros on that clock, the game is never over.
Never over. And we had and this is not a cliche. I really believe that my success in business and in life I'm a firm believer it has to do with my athletics. And I was a big baseball player, which is a different, wonderful vibe. But football, we had a new coach that year, and I learned more from him on the way he ran the program, his integrity, his discipline, the things that you're saying, working it's not about an individual, it's about a team. I learned more from him. He wrote a book in that year than I had almost in all my previous years put together. And I'm just a firm believer in uh, my experience is football, but a collective team. What are we doing? We're problem solving. We lose, we problem solve how to get better and win. We have our head coach, the CEO per se. He throws down the vision to his coaches. It is a pyramid, where you got a head, you got people under him, and then everybody, just like a business, everybody buys into it with a vision. And I learned through Scott Phillips that we bought into it and we started winning. So if you buy into it and start winning, it just starts to take over. We thought we were going to the state championship that year. You know why? Because he told us we were.
Wow.
And Plano East never had that mentality like Plano. I don't know. Y'all don't know
Just
Texas.
just to the northeast, just to the northeast of Dallas.
Yes. And so the Wildcats have won 6 or 7 state championships. Plano East we didn't have a winning mentality, and he changed that culture. And that taught, I mean, I've learned specific things through that year to things subconsciously that I didn't even know. But I just know that my success has a big part to do with sports. You know what I mean? You can't succeed and learn stuff without it, but it definitely is my way. It was my journey to learn.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned vision because we just wrote mission and vision statements in class, and I don't think these guys realize how important that is for a company. Maybe you don't advertise it all the time, but when everybody in your company is bought into what you're doing, whether
Yeah.
it's or everybody on your team is bought into what you're doing, it is amazing how much more successful you can be.
Oh man, it is the foundation of a company. I don't know where we're going, how specific we're getting. I have my little notes, but you write a business plan. If somebody comes to me and says, Tell me, let's go eat lunch. I want to start a business. It starts with an idea. But the first thing I tell them is you need to write a business plan. Yeah, to me, it
Yep.
does two things. One, I told them you'll have a revelation and epiphanies. You're all over the place with your idea of where you're going to do it, who's your clientele. I mean, there's just all these things, and a good business plan hones it all in. So I'm a big, big believer in writing a business plan because it will sharpen and refine what your heart, what your vision and your heart is saying. The other thing I think, this is just me personally, I think it sends it out into the universe, and there's an extra power behind it whenever it's on paper, in my opinion. And so I think the foundation of a business plan, and when I say business plan, it refers to what you're saying. I tell people it can be 13 pages, but it can be two. You know,
Yeah.
part of the business plan is how you're going to treat your employees, what's your vision, what's the atmosphere going to be, and then it gets very detailed in what service area, what's your profit margin, what's your aggressive marketing campaign. So it just, whether it be strategic, practically speaking, to uh, the morals and principles that you want to live by and how you treat people and customers and employees. I just think a business plan is so important, in my opinion. It is,
Absolutely. I agree.
and so that's what I think about a business plan, and that's part of what you're saying. It sets the tone, and you can always go back there and tweak it, but it sets
Yeah.
the tone, practically speaking, to a big vision. Your mission statement of what you want to do and what you want to be.
Big time. Well, I do have some questions from these guys. I'm gonna get to as many of these as I can. This
Sure.
first one is Herbert Carmichael. He's in 10th grade. And he asked, what are your thoughts on hiring employees? Would you believe in hiring? Would you think it's more important to hire someone that's older and more mature, or someone that is younger, respectful, and willing to learn?
I've already said it, and this is just the absolute truth. I look for whoever is the problem solver. And you can be young without experience and be a problem solver. And you can be seasoned with experience and not be a problem solver. So I'm pretty open-minded to listen to the individual and to see if they'll buy in. But I will say, if I could choose those two things and they were both problem solvers, I liked them both, I would choose the younger guy with energy. And younger guys with energy, if you have a good atmosphere, they're a little bit more trainable. They soak in a little bit better. They don't have anything to deprogram um, based off the older's experiences and stuff. So I have found that if I could just choose a kind of a younger, aggressive, I'm getting older kid, they could be in their 20s, um, then I would choose that just for those reasons that they're a little bit more open minded, and they'll buy in a little bit more, and they're hungry, they're eager
There you
typically.
go.
They're
Absolutely.
hungry, they're eager, they want to. When I work for Legacy Homes, I want every sports, I want every competition, every trip, all that stuff, just because I was ready to win and I had full of energy, where some of the older builders were great, but they just were methodical. So I would choose the latter in that statement or that question.
Big time. This is Tadavian Smith. He's in 10th grade. He's a member of our band here at Belma Jackson. And he asked, after such a heartbreaking loss, how did you mentally deal with it?
Oh, it was tough. Um, there's a whole other story about me that we're not going to get into, but I probably I wasn't in a good place in life at that game. So that definitely was a heartbreaker, more than people probably know. Um, it was going to school, a couple of days later, it was tough. Just going from thinking we're going to win it all to that game and the emotional roller coaster, and then to ultimately lose. So it definitely was a heartbreaker. I probably didn't handle it well, to be honest. In the weeks to come, it was a piece of the puzzle for me uh, to think about how to get my life going back a little bit better. but it was tough. The sports are tough, man. They're heartbreaking. And that's business. You know, you can be flying high, but building a company is fun. It's fun, and it's sure fun when you start making money. And
Big time.
you know, what I mean, you work your butt off. I love to help people. We just invested in a couple of little bitty small companies, and I'm helping them. But they're aggressive. I think they're going to succeed, and I like to watch them grind it out, be discouraged. No, just don't give up, and then start making some money. And it wouldn't surprise me in a year, 2 years, they start living their dream, and that's what I
Yeah.
love.
Oh, awesome. This is
Yeah.
Jordan Joe. He's in 10th grade. He's actually one of our football players here. And he asked, do you plan on keeping the business in your family or selling?
No, we right now there it's worth $2.7 million. I just got it.
Wow.
I just got it. What do you recall it?
Appraised.
Appraised. We're investing now, so you have to do all this stuff and appraise your business. But it's such a cash cow that I don't know if I'd ever sell it. It does too well.
That's
I've got
awesome.
three boys, 26, 21, and 19 in college, or two of them are in college. And we actually had a big talk this summer because y'all's generation, you're going to have to work through and problem solve the way things are moving, technology with AI.
Yep.
Um, you know, you can go to it, you can do a trade, but it's just ever moving. So, you know, I almost have a little bit of a heart for this generation of the American dream and going to get graduate. We don't know what the job market's going to look like in 6 months, 2 years. So it's tough, the cost of living. So we actually had a big meeting with our kids, and it was an open meeting saying, hey, we can expand this company even more, and we can branch out to do some other things if you guys wanted to come aboard. It's not a handout. Y'all gonna have to work, but I have a vision, and it would be my wife and I's dream to build somewhat of a little, you know, enterprise because we love real estate. We built homes. She
That's
buys and sells
awesome.
real estate. So that's
Great
kind
area to be in that too, right there in the Metroplex. One of the
of,
hottest real estate markets in the country right now.
gold. So we'll keep it in the family business to answer that specifically. I don't have any intention. And there's there's quadrants, of making money, and buying companies, building them up and selling them is absolutely what people do for a living. That's not in our heart. I could just see us keeping this around because it's just a cash flow company, and using that capital to do some other things that we have in mind. So we don't know what's going to happen, but the kids, I've also told them, y'all go, don't, go do whatever you want, what your heart is. And I've got a son that's 19, just walked in. He's my entrepreneur. I mean, this kid has started three businesses. He-
Wow.
he's just a go-getter big time. So I have to almost settle him down sometimes. Um,
All right.
he's very aggressive, but
Uh,
he, we just let an open door, but right now, unless something changes in me, it'll stay in our family.
I just have time for two more. This is Tyler Myers, also one of our football players here at Velma Jackson. And he asked, when you were doing the comeback in the fourth quarter, what did you change about the game plan?
We started passing. Back in the 90s, these guys, he plays football, it was all veer. It was all option. What they remember they call it the running shoot with the Oilers. So the spread and everything that these guys know now, that wasn't around when I was there. It was a veer offense or a wing tee or a wishbone. So it was all option offenses. I could throw the ball better. I could do anything. So on a veer, you maybe throw it 6 to 8 times. We were throwing it about 20 times a game, but it's still the veer offense at work. So uh, we started throwing the ball. We got rid of running the option and started throwing the ball. That was the game plan. Listen, the offensive coordinator came from the box because we thought it was over. So he's not even in the box anymore, and I'm over there with him, and they're calling plays together, and we just started running the pass plays. We switched the game plan just like when you're far behind, you've got to start throwing the ball. So that was probably the biggest change that happened during that game in the last 3 minutes.
Wow. Well, I got time for one more. This is Christopher Mitchell. He's a basketball player here. And he asked, even though you lost the game, does it ever feel good knowing you played in one of the most famous games in football history?
I've learned to appreciate it more through my wife, predominantly as I've gotten older. So yes, I'm very thankful that I played in this game. Uh, the first 15, 20 years, I was a terrible interviewer with ESPN and the Bleacher Report because I had to learn to, they don't want honesty. They want you to puff it up, and be dramatic. So I kind of changed my attitude of we lost ultimately. So that takes away from, it used to take away from, I don't even want to be involved in that game to a degree. Two, as I've gotten older, learn to appreciate that I'm talking to you right now, 30 years later, because of this game in your class. It's a pretty cool deal. And
Yeah.
it's gave us people, we've gotten flown up to New York City to do stuff. So
Wow.
it's had its benefits. And as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate that it's part of my history.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't know the announcers from that game, and I know they were your coaches, were in Varsity Blues and
Mhm.
had appearances on Jay Leno and Dave Letterman, and the game went viral. And it was for years they showed the whole game on ESPN every year.
Yeah. I don't know if they do that anymore, but every 10 year, 20 year, I mean, it's a madhouse that thing comes back up. And yes, those, again, I'm real close to those guys, but they became famous. Eddie Clinton, one of the announcers, he literally, I met with him, I don't know, 4 or 5 times in the last 6 months because he's writing a book. When it first
Wow.
happened, it blew up so big that I don't know how many, 4 or 5, we're going to make a movie, we're going to do a reality show, we're going to write a book, and none of it really panned out, to be honest. For the most part, people have written books on it, but yes, it just blew up, and those announcers became famous.
Yeah.
You're part of a. I don't even. I think it would still be big, but without them and all the funny sayings, and that sure did add
It
fuel.
definitely it definitely added to the amazement that was happening on the
Yeah,
field.
I
And
mean, it's
I would
partly a
encourage
war.
everybody if they've never seen it, even if you're not a football fan, the entertainment from the booth made it that much better than
Sure.
on top of what happened on the game.
Yeah. It was great, man. I do to answer that question at this point, I do appreciate that I was involved in that game. I'd rather have a ring.
Uh, well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time
Yeah.
for us. But before we go, you know, when we were talking about Friday, we were watching the highlights, and I said something, and I got chills when I said it. I said each of us, no matter whether it's your education, whether it's your family, whether it's your business, whether it's sports, each of us has a game to finish.
Mhm.
No matter and no matter what it is, no matter what your game is, all of us have to finish that game. And if we don't finish it, that's when we're not successful. Every single person, when you if you play to the whistle blows at the end, no matter what the game you're playing is, it is amazing how much more you can be successful. And you guys did such a great example of that 30 years ago. And I will never get sick of seeing the comeback you guys made when the fans had fouled out and even the announcers were saying the game was over.
Yeah. I have written in my notes here, you got to be fearless in life, in sports, in entrepreneurship, in being an employee, and being a good family man. You never give up. And in life, in sports, and then for this particular class, my biggest advice for people is that so many people have a vision to do something. My first thing to say to them is I say something I'm not allowed to say probably, but you have to have the kahunas to go for it. People get
Yeah.
stuck in fear, they just are scared. So once they get past that point, my next thing is you're going to have obstacles. You just you never stop going forward. And my saying is, if you just never stop going forward, there's only one outcome. It's success.
Yeah.
The only time it fails is when you give up and because you're gonna get beat up, you're gonna get rejected. You got to get over fear. Like it's a stupid question. You just have to get over all that and go forward one day at a time and problem solve and never give up. And that's applied to starting a business, what you just said, sports, life, family. It's just something that's applied to everything, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And you've done such a great job with that. And congratulations on the success of your business. And thank you so much for joining us
Yeah,
one day after you get back from Vegas. So, Jeff Whitley, all the way from Plano, Texas, quarterback for the 1994 Plano East Panthers. Thank you so much again for taking some time for us.
hey, Greg, thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
I talk to you soon, buddy.
Okay, buddy, thank you.
See ya.